let's welcome to the family Lucky Honesuki number 7 by Chris Meade, an Irish knifesmith from, you guessed it, Ireland. Guys, today is going to be jam-packed. Chris Meade made his first ever Honesuki and he decided to send it to the kitchen knife studio, so we will be unboxing, we will be testing, and we will be reviewing Chris Meade's first ever Honesuki chicken butchery knife. Now, for your convenience, what I have done is, since this is a bit of a long video, I will always have timestamps for the longer videos. So make sure you check the timeline if you just want to have a look at the unboxing, the knife demo, or the knife review. Timestamps in the timeline or in the video description below. Without further ado, what do you say we have Chris introduce himself, talk a little bit about the knife that he sent me, then we'll go into the unboxing of this knife tube, we'll go into the knife demo. 3 chickens were butchered for this single video. That is a whole lot of chickens. That is a whole lot of testing of this Honesuki. And then we're going to review his knife. Without further ado, Chris, take it away.
How are you getting on? My own name is Chris Meade. I've been making knives for about 15 years, on and off. I concentrate mostly on the culinary side of things, chef knives and stuff. But if it's got an edge, I'll make it. I've made everything from display knives to hunting knives, but mainly I concentrate on culinary knives. So I have sent Frankie a Honesuki. It's got a 26C3 carbon steel blade, 4mm at the spine, Sheoak handle in a wah style, and he's going to test it. So we'll see how he gets on. Hopefully it's good, but we'll see what he says. You can find me at CM Custom Blades on Instagram or www.cmcustomblades.com. Thanks, lads.
Lucky Honesuki number 7 is in this package, and once again, look who decided to fondle her package. Customs. I'm telling you, if you want to fondle me instead of my knives, leave a comment. But you don't have my consent for this. Anyhow, let's see what's in this package, and this is Honesuki number 7. Right off the bat, this is pretty cool. Little QR code. What do you say we scan it right here or right now? Let's grab the camera app on the phone, put it in photo mode. Let's have a look. What are we looking at here? Freaking love that. Straight to his website. Super smart. That's marketing, baby. You get hit with that pop-up for the mailing list. Make sure you're on the mailing list if you want to see all the cool knives that he has for sale. Shop now. Ooh, that's a nice Honyaki. Man, there are some nice knives in here. If you ask me, one of Chris's specialties is going to be his Honyaki. Beautiful, nice, deep, rich contrast. And he also comes out with really nice contoured handles. Always a nice pop of color. But without further ado, ooh, actually, hold on. That's nice. That's still available. Are you kidding me? 360 euros. That is a fantastic price. 220mm S-grind carbon K-tip. You know I love my K-tips. Roasted maple. Ooh, let's have a look here. Let's look at some pictures. Yeah, this is great. You see what just happened? Look at that S-grind. But he included a QR code. I scanned it immediately because, of course, that's what one wants to do. And all of a sudden, not only am I unboxing a knife from Chris, but I kind of want to buy another. That is great marketing. Knifesmiths out there, if you're watching this video, QR code right on the packaging or business card. But this is even better. I'm not even in the box yet, and I already want to buy a new knife. All right, let's cut around. The only thing I would say is, including it here, I'm likely going to discard it, I imagine, once the box is open. So that's the only downside. In here in advance, we already know should be a 160mm Honyaki made out of 26C3 high carbon steel with a Sheoak handle. And I remember talking to Chris about this. He sent me the properties of the knife essentially on paper. This looks extremely promising. So yeah, this is sounding promising on paper. I can't wait to test it. Ooh, look at that. Customs got a little bit naughty. They went from the back. Because there's no way Chris shipped it this way. They just had to have a look. Naughty, naughty boys. Could be girls too, to be honest. Alright. It came with this little pamphlet. CM Custom Blades, high quality knives, handmade in this place, Ireland. Form and function with a splash of beauty. I'm fairly certain a few minutes ago I just said that one of the things I really like about his knives is that he makes really nice Honyaki and makes contoured handles with a splash of color. Always a nice pop of color. If I didn't say splash, it was close. Thank you for your support, Chris Meade, website again. And then maintenance tips. This is fantastic. Chris, only thing I would add, that QR code, put it smack here again. Somewhere here, but this is great. All right, what do you say we check out the knife? Ooh, that actually has really nice weight to it. Nice little touch here. See a lot of paper sleeves for kitchen knives when you purchase them. Typically, it's just paper wrapped around the blade as a sleeve. However, here, he customized it a little bit. So all of this stuff, it kind of just adds to the experience. Let's have a look. Ooh, damn. I haven't even pulled it out of its sleeve yet, and it looks great. Look at that handle. Let's zoom in here. Oh, baby. The first thing I recognized in pulling this from the packaging that Customs decided to open was actually the weight. This has really nice weight, and the handle is super clean. It's really, really smooth on the hands. Huge fan. Okay, you know what? I need to see this. Oh my god. Oh, buddy. 160 millimeter. As I said, Honyaki Honesuki. 26C3 high carbon steel. Nice polish. Beautiful handle. Ooh, nice spine. Contour too. Let's zoom in on that even a bit more. Yeah. Damn. That's pretty beef. Doesn't really taper either. It's quite thick. It's all the way to that polished tip. Do the good old choil shot for you choil shot aficionados out there. Let's take a look at the right side of the blade. Beauty. Nice little Tsuchimi textured hammer finish. Right above that bevel. Beautiful work, Chris. And you might not believe this. And this is a testament to Chris's 15 years of bladesmithing. But this is, I believe, Chris, let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong, but I believe this is Honesuki #1 from Chris's shop. And it's right here in the Kitchen Knife Guys studio. And I couldn't be more thrilled to put it to use. Nice, slightly fluted butt. Really digging the grain in the handle. Super nice. Damn. This is a man who has refined his craft over the years and knows precisely what he's doing. So, without further ado, let's go straight into the chicken butchery knife demo. And then we'll come back and I'll tell you how I think it performs. How it performs on my eyes, I can tell you I am absolutely in love with this. The weight is phenomenal. Alright, let's go cut some chicken. Alright, so quickly before we get into the knife demo, what do you guys think of the knife? On the eyes, it is a looker. Now, the weight feels great. There is something I'll mention a little bit later once I use it, but I like the weight, I like the geometry, I like the specs, and most importantly, I don't know, when it comes to Honesuki, I'm going to have to do another video about this, but a lot of people lately are making what they're calling Honesuki, but it's really just a K-tip petty. Here, what I wanted to show you is I have a diagram where I basically roughly traced the outline of my favorite Honesuki, the Isamitsu Honesuki, and kind of compared it to the shape of Chris Meade's Honesuki. As you can see, even visually here, it looks quite similar left and right. The biggest differences are going to be in that K-tip, in terms of the angle of the tip, and therefore where it kind of meets the spine. Now, Chris's knife, in terms of flat edge, is one of the flatter Honesuki edges that I received, which is absolutely fantastic. The tip, as you will see, is going to be very sharp, but I do prefer when the tip is at a bit more of an acute angle and kind of reaches the spine a little bit further back, makes it easier to see when in use. Otherwise, the look of this knife is fantastic. The handle feels great in hand. Fit and finish is great. So what do you say we go test this knife, then come back and talk about it? Oh yeah. There, close your legs. Little pervert. Super sharp blade, which is awesome. Makes it much easier to do things like cutting through skin. for Kino. Now something small I'm noticing is when I'm holding the Honesuki in this manner, as you can see this handle is actually pretty long, and I find that it's actually limiting my movement a little bit as I try to move my wrist around. What's happening is the butt of the handle is pressing into the, I guess, lower part of my wrist and just feels really uncomfortable. So maybe a little bit long on the handle length, especially when you use the knife for precision cuts like this. Hey, make a wish, wishbone baby. I find that removing this properly makes removing the chicken breast that much easier. See, typically the wishbone would have been here in the way. And you'd have to cut around it. Also find you end up with more meat on your chicken breast when you do it this way. So the thing I just realized as I'm doing some chicken butchery is a proper Honesuki requires lots of kind of rigid parameters around blade profile, hardness, toughness, just shape in general. But I'm also realizing this blade never really touches the cutting board a lot, so it's really a lot of aerial cutting, which makes the geometry even more important because it needs to be flexible to the needs of the task at hand. Always trying to get that oyster muscle everyone goes crazy about. Find that line of fat and cut closer to the drumstick to go straight between the cartilage. These chicken thighs, when you stuff them, so freaking good. I like to keep the skin on for some extra fat, and already the chicken thighs are fatty as it is. The second you're between the cartilage for the wings, try to cut away from the chicken breast as much as possible, otherwise you'll end up with chicken breast meat on the wing or on the drumette, and that's not really necessary. See, had I cut in a little bit further, I'd have a lot of this chicken breast on the drumette. For the drumette, detaching it from the wing, what I found works really well is essentially you place the knife at a similar angle to the beefiest part of the drumette, and of course going straight here at the joint. Case in point, baby. Becca's not a big fan of the skin, so I remove it sometimes on the chicken breast. Use the weight of the bird as much as possible. It does the work for you. Of course, I've seen some people use something like a tea towel to just make it easier to hold onto the slippery skin. That's fine, but I like holding chicken in one hand, knife in the other. Also, I'm in no rush, not at a restaurant. That's the beauty. Beauty of being a home chef. Voila. Nice crispy chicken skin snack. There's cartilage here by the rib cage, which is why I press down with the heel, just for a bit of extra resilience in the knife. And unlike most Japanese kitchen knives, don't be afraid to cut, in a way, through bone, even the softer type, of course, is what I'm referring to, because the Honesuki is supposed to be built to handle some of that. That's why it's not as thin behind the edge or spine. This is Kino snack. Feel with your fingers, make an upside down V incision below the bone, and feel with your fingers, make an upside down V incision right above, and then essentially see if you get lucky. You make those incisions so that you have room to stick your fingers and grab the bone. I'm not lucky in terms of pulling it out in one piece, but I'm lucky that I removed it, which will make removing of the chicken breast that much easier, in my opinion. Just pull back. The meat has a tendency where the attachment points are weak to just want to pull back anyways. Small incisions when you're not sure. Chicken tendy. Get a nice grip on the chicken tendy, and there you go. I don't go too crazy on cleanup. I do it sometimes when I'm cooking, but of course when I'm doing chicken butchery, if I see these big lines of fat, that's when the knife touches the cutting board for the few times during the chicken butchery. You'll see I do this move pretty often, kind of rotate the Honesuki back and hold it this way, so that as I push, I'm not pushing the blade edge into the meat or into the bone. It's just a safe way in terms of kind of moving the chicken parts around. This way I also don't have to put the knife down. There you have it. Chris Meade's knife going through 3 chickens. Feelings, thoughts, feedback, easy. I like the grip of the handle. I like the weight of the knife. The knife felt sharp for all 3 chickens in a row. I think the profile is pretty much there. I like as flat an edge as possible so that when I'm doing incisions, I know exactly where the knife is going and where it'll stop, because it's just a flat profile. The tip works in terms of precision work. I am a fan, however, of just having it feel a little bit more elongated. So even if he kept the tip at the current location on the blade, I'm just kind of drawing this line back a little bit to meet the spine about here. Makes it easier for me when I'm looking top down to essentially see where the tip is doing that detailed work. The handle did feel a little bit long, especially when holding it this way for precision's sake. Of course, one way to kind of work around that is if I had the chicken on the cutting board and I was cutting left to right. As you can see, the butt of the handle is not in the way in this position. It was, however, in the way when cutting top to bottom. But yeah, man, for a first attempt, I don't have much feedback other than that. This knife looks gorgeous. If you've watched the entire video by now, you might be a little bit exhausted, but that's okay. I'm going to try to keep this short and tight. We already talked about the fit and finish of the knife, the overall look. My biggest complaint, if I were to have one, is, of course, I know I talked a little bit about the handle length, but that could be a me problem. Honestly, all I gotta do is kind of butcher the chicken at this angle as opposed to this angle, and I'd be fine. I still think it should be a little bit shorter. The ricasso is a little bit long, but really, my only gripe is I like the weight of the knife. When I just hold the knife, it's fantastic. But when I use the knife, the balance point, which is just a little bit past the pinch grip, that's where I find it a bit uncomfortable in the actual use of the knife itself. Why? Because in terms of chicken butchery, kind of like I mentioned, it really is aerial cutting. And so I want more weight, if anything, just before the pinch grip or in the handle, so that I feel less stress on the hand from it being kind of pulled down because of the blade weight. So here, I do still like the weight in terms of weight on paper. If I take a look at the weight before I even held the knife, I'm like, yeah, I think that's a good weight for a Honesuki. It's gonna feel great in hand. It's going to feel like I have control over it. But I feel that I lose a bit of control over it because the weight is a little bit too forward. Again, these are easy fixes, as in all one needs to do, for example, since I find the ricasso a little bit long, is you can just kind of bring this a little bit more into the handle itself, therefore shifting the balance point. But if I don't mention it, it's not something that's going to be addressed. So I wanted to mention it because as I use the knife, as you saw, super sharp, cuts through the skin with ease. I tested the resiliency of the edge, which is why Chris also made a bit of a thick spine, going through cartilage for something like the backbone, for the keel bone, and no issues after 3 knives. It's still sharp. I wouldn't sharpen it after 3 whole chickens. The knife looks great. It feels great. It has a nice textured handle. I didn't have any slippage issues. It was sharp. It's still sharp. And the patina. Oh boy, the patina on Spicy White 26C3, it really gets accentuated by meat. So what better steel, high carbon steel, to choose for a Honesuki than Spicy White 26C3. So Chris, for first Honesuki, you know, like, I'm trying to give people constructive feedback, so of course there will always be a few things that I try to mention, but this is a banger. I believe the Americans call it a home run. So again, maybe accentuating a bit of a personal opinion, but I do like when the K-tip is at a more acute angle. It could be essentially the same length knife, but if the K-tip angle is going to be more acute, and it touches the spine further back, it's easier for me to see where that tip is. At the same time, it really starts to make it look like that classic Honesuki geometry. I'm a stickler for this stuff. If we start to get longer in blade length, we're getting too close to like Garasuki territory. Same thing with a few geometry differences, but your spine was nice and thick, edge was resilient. I love the steep bevels. This is a fantastic knife. Guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoy what I do, remember to subscribe to the channel. It's free. Hit that like button, leave a comment below, and hit that bell button while you're at it. Otherwise, I will catch you in the next one. And thanks again, Chris Meade.